Hey, my friends. By the time this goes up, it will be only a little bit over a month before our taxes are due. And if you need help, you should get in touch with Molly Morris at m3virtualaccounting.com. Molly is super helpful, will work with you on whatever you need, and she will even do a free consult just to make sure that she can actually do what it is you're looking for. She is a godsend. I wish I had hired her a lot sooner. Everything in my life has gone more smoothly since I hired her. I can't recommend her enough. So again, if you want to talk to her and see if she can help with what you need, go to m3virtualaccounting.com and get a free consultation. That's m3virtualaccounting.com.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the rereading, the co-host switcheroo, things got mixed up, covering chapter 76 and 77, Jon and Tyrion. In these chapters, Jon gets made an offer that he might refuse, and Tyrion kills his daddy. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
Okay, I know we want to talk about Tyrion, but we're not going to do it. We're going to start with Jon. We're going to start with Jon because that's where the book starts. All right, so this is interesting because we have the Tyrion chapter is so action-packed, and Jon's is very dialogue-heavy.
Yeah.
And it's very idea-heavy.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about this? Because I'm pretty sure this happens the same way in the books, or the show, my bad. But it hasn't come up in our talks about things.
Yeah, I intentionally tried to not think about the show, try to remember what the show did, and just focus on what's in the book for this chapter. So I don't know. I can't remember exactly how it goes. I remember there's a conversation that Jon has with Stannis, but I don't remember. Excuse me for a second, but I know last time I got really turned around because I was thinking about the mutiny and how that happened with Jon and when exactly it happened, because this timeline doesn't feel right. Like it should, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, we find out in this Jon chapter that Stannis, is making him an offer to be, what is it called, legitimized,
correct,
and take Winterfell. And I feel like that is something that happened in the show, but this whole marriage to Val doesn't feel like anything to me.
Okay,
I'm I don't think they did that in the show whatsoever.
Gotcha.
And then on the show, Jon becomes Lord Commander.
Right.
But here, Stannis is offering him Winterfell.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm well, is that what's going to happen? Does Jon go back to Winterfell in the books instead? And the whole mutiny thing from the show is just completely off book? I don't know. I don't know. If I had to wager a guess, I say Jon does not take Stannis' offer here.
Okay.
But then the next thing becomes, well, how does Stannis respond to that refusal? And I have no idea. I don't know.
I love that you're just trying to cut me off before I can ask you questions.
Yeah, because I don't want to get bogged.
Look, I don't fucking know. Just don't do it.
I don't,
all right?
Because I don't want to get bogged down trying to remember what I remember from the show and whatnot, and I get all turned around and I end up not even thinking about what happened on the book because I'm so focused on trying to remember what happened on the show.
Fair.
So, this opens with him training Satin in the yard, and he is alerted that the king requests his presence by Melisandre, who, John's observation of her is so interesting.
Yeah.
First of all, he's like, like, she's fucking really pretty. Like,
She fine.
Like, I don't know if y'all know, like, but this bitch, looks real, real good. And he talks about like how warm she is. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, he's like, aren't you cold? Because you don't seem to be layered up the way you need to be layered up for where we're about to go. And she's just like, no, I don't get cold. Cold is for death. And, she touches him to prove how warm she is. And Jon thinks to himself, she even smells red, which I don't know what to make of that. The scent reminded him of a forge or the way iron smells when it's red hot. And then he thinks about Ygritte, kissed by fire. And he is just really being that close to her. He does not know what to make of her. And his brain is all over the place. He just can't figure out what her deal is. Mm-hmm. And I really just enjoyed that very awkward cage ride up the wall.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing because when Stannis offers him to be legitimized, what Melisandre says basically is like, yeah, I know that you made your vows to your fucking trees. It doesn't mean any more than making a vow to your shoes, which is so disrespectful. And I'm like, my instinct, and this is just anytime anybody tries to be like, your religion's bullshit, be my religion. I, of course, have like the dander up kind of fuck you attitude. But then there's a part of me now that I'm sort of like, look, if there's any time in the history of Westeros that you might want to be on the side of the fire god, I feel like now's the time when there are White Walkers that only seem to be sensitive to light and fire. Maybe this is what you should do. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it.
It's really, and I'm glad you brought that up too, thinking about the different religions, because the religions of the Starks and the North, and the old gods, it feels like the others are something that comes from that same mythology, let's call it, Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm with you. I want to join the team of fire, because the team of cold and ice, like, you seem like you're in league with what we're fighting. Right? Like, y'all seem like y'all on the same side. So
yeah, it's like, even if you're not, like, I get the idea of well, they're from the same mythology because those gods know how to deal with these things. Do they? Because they're here.
I mean,
if they knew how to deal with them, maybe they wouldn't fucking be here.
Exactly.
Right now.
I feel like people are very loosey-goosey with the idea of what deal with a thing means. Mm-hmm. And clearly whatever they thought they dealt with in the past is wore off. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe it did work for 1,000 years, but that shit, has anybody been checking on it?
Nobody's gotten it plugged in to recharge.
Right? Like, maybe we were supposed to do a ritual every couple 100 years. Who's been on top of that?
They couldn't find an outlet. I looked everywhere. I know that feeling.
So he goes up to meet Stannis, and I love this memory that Jon has from Donald Noyce when he's describing the Baratheon men. Mm-hmm. And he describes Robert as being the one that was the true steel, and that Stannis is pure iron, and black and hard and strong, but brittle. The way iron gets, he'll break before he bends. And if that is not fucking Stannis, like, that is.
I have some issues with calling Robert true steel at this point. I will say that.
I mean, maybe young Robert maybe was true.
Sure.
I mean, by the time he got to the end, that is not the phrase I would use.
Sorry, Robert, but
but I love that Jon thinks about that, and as he's going to face Stannis, and then their interaction is really, I don't know what I was expecting, but it's not as it's not as and
Contentious?
there's not as much like animosity between the two. There's not as much sort of like jousting back and forth,
Yeah.
It just went much cleaner and nicer than I think I was expecting. Jon is very deferential.
Yep.
In a way that you absolutely have to be when you're dealing with Stannis.
Yes, definitely.
But Jon is also just being like point blank telling, like he says to Stannis, yeah, I know what you heard. You've heard that I did this and I did that and I'm a turncloak and I, shacked up with this wildling chick and you know what I mean? I killed the half hand. Like I know you've heard all of that. And Stannis is like, I did hear all that. And then Jon tells like his version really quick though. It's not like a long drawn out, this happened and then that happened and I was forced to do this. It's all very matter of fact.
Yeah.
And then when he's done, Stannis is just like, yeah, I believe you.
I love this so much. Like Stannis, I just feel a lot more warmly toward him in a general sense this read through than I did before. Because first of all, the fact that he listened to Davos and came at all, and the way he frames it is like Davos was acting like he told me I had my priorities backward and that I was trying to become king to save the realm when really I should save the realm to become its king. And I was like, oh, listen to Davos. Oh, you're so good. And I'm so glad that you have the sense to listen to that man. So there's that. And also the fact that as soon as Jon tells his story and he's like, yeah, I believe you. And Jon's like, you do? And he's like, I know Janos Slint. And I'm like, oh, again,
right?
The sense. Like, just, this is something I feel like I can't blame when certain folks don't have familiarity with a person that they can't see through what that person is saying. But also, there has to be some awareness from just the vibe you get when you first meet somebody, whether they are the type to be full of shit. And the number of people who have just really failed Jon in believing whatever the fuck Janos said about him. It's like, either you just wanted to believe this anyway because you don't like Jon, or you are the most gullible person.
Right. I think
come on.
It's like a mixture of like Alistair. He supports Slint because one, he hates Jon Snow, but also he's smart enough to see supporting Janos as an avenue to power for himself.
Sure.
Right. So he's like on that. But then a lot of these other folks that are just like, I think we're supposed to understand that a lot of people really don't have any capacity for critical thinking, that they are easily duped, as you called it, and will just believe whatever the person in authority is saying, especially if the person in authority has the sort of confidence that Janos Slint has about himself.
He sure does.
There's, people will just be like, oh, well, I guess he must know what he's talking about. Otherwise, why would he be in charge? And why would he be so confident, speaking with such authority? He must be telling the truth. His version must be the accurate version or whatever. And I like that Stannis is just like, yeah, no, I'm not falling for that. I know who the fuck this guy is. I know what kind of man that is, And then in the same breath mentions Ned Stark. And it's like, I knew him too. And like, we weren't friends, but I would like only a fool would ever doubt his honor or his honesty. And then when they start talking about Stannis is like, also, I know about the daggers. I know about the dragon glass too.
He knows all kinds of shit.
Yeah, and everything that Stannis is giving Jon credit for, like he's like, you found the dragon glass, and Jon is like, nope, that was Ghost. Yeah, and then they're like, and you like defended the gate, and he's like, nope, that was Donald Noyce. He died in the tunnels, and just like everything he's trying to lay in on Jon's lap is being like, you did this, you accomplished that. Jon is just like, nope. Nope, you got it wrong, sir.
Not taking credit, not doing it. Like, it's a trap. Yeah, I especially like the no, that wasn't me, that was Ghost. And I'm like, look, I can understand you wanting to hand over credit to Donald Noy, but being like, no, it wasn't me, it was my dog. I'm sure it's fine, Jon, if you take credit for the thing that Ghost did. Nobody's mad at that. Nobody's gonna accuse you of being a liar. Like,
doesn't say at one point Stannis say, yeah, word on the street is you're a warg too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, no, I did have a direwolf, but I haven't seen him in a while. And people just be saying shit to be saying shit.
I'm like, I feel like you're a warg by now, Jon Snow. Like, come on. But okay.
It's been a while since we've seen him have one of those dreams. He's
True.
Clearly, I don't think that, it's a weird thing. Like, you would think after Jon's experience with a legit warg, right, and being like embedded with the wildlings, that he would recognize his own dreams a little bit better for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't seem to be the case. I think it's because it's been so long. Maybe he's in what do you call it? Plausible deniability. Like there's been so much time that he can just tell himself, "Oh, those were just crazy dreams, crazy dreams."
And I think too that there's the aspect of like they're trying to equate me with the wildlings, and if I say that, I might be a warg, that's just putting me too far over in the wildling camp. Like, that's not a thing that people are going to feel like recommends me to them. That just makes me scarier and weirder.
I would definitely want to play that down.
Yeah. And he mentions too that the guy who was in the eagle went mad.
Yeah, and he looks at Melisandre like, and people say that was you. And she's just like, maybe it was Jon Snow. The Lord of Light has fiery talent. She's just so fucking she's just fucking just extra all the time.
She
with like zero chill. She couldn't chill if her life depended on it.
Well, no, she's very warm.
Oh my God.
All the time.
Ma'am.
She can't chill.
Ma'am.
Because she's too hot. I'm so sorry.
Are you sorry enough, though, is the question. Stannis wants to give him credit for capturing, in quotes, Val and Mance's infant. And Jon is like, I don't know if capture is the right word. We were just in a tent together.
Yes. Yeah, they're trying to act like this shit was strategic. And he's like, I just went back in there because I saw people's heads getting chopped off and was like, I think I would like to leave.
And then Stannis also starts asking, because Stannis is really, it's funny. A lot of the stuff that we read about, especially in King's Landing, it can be really frustrating because it feels like the characters aren't asking the right questions. They're not remembering information they already had available to them. And then there's these moments where you're like, why don't you bring up the thing? But then the thing is never brought up. Stannis is bringing up all the things, y'all. Yes. And I really, really, really appreciate it. So he's asking about Mance. And, and Jon is being, I think, very, very diplomatic, but also honest. So he tells Stannis that there is a type of honor to the wildlings and to Mance Rayder. He fucking does not have anything good to say about Rattleshirt.
Nope.
And then
he's like, do the wildlings have honor? Yeah. Does Rattleshirt?
Way down deep inside. And then Stannis asks about Tormund. What does he say? This man, Tormund of the many names.
Yes.
I don't know why that made me laugh, but it really did.
I like the idea of Tormund just making some up in the moment on the fly.
Exactly.
He totally invented shit.
He just, every time somebody asks him, he just gives himself some new shit to say. Just because why not? Like, fuck it, why not? I love that so much. And he says of Tormund that he seems to me to be the sort of man that would make a good friend and a bad enemy. And I said, you know what? Yes.
Correct.
That is the correct answer. So then eventually we get to what's really going on and why Stannis has asked him upstairs. And what he wants is to offer Jon Snow legitimacy, call him Lord Snow, which in Jon's brain is just like, oh, that's what they've been fucking calling me, and I've been fighting against that. And now you want to literally make me Lord Snow like that? That's not really what I,
It's weird because it would be Lord Stark. Like, if you're legitimized, you're not going to keep the Snow name.
Right.
But it is mentioned at one point that he thinks, like, now the title Lord Snow sounded real. And I was like, well, it shouldn't, because that's not what they'd call you.
Right.
That's not how it would be. But right.
And so Stannis is like, you basically are a Stark. You're bold enough to be a Stark. Like, it wouldn't be a big deal to me. And Stannis is understanding, I think, that the people of the North need to follow a Stark. That, you need to have one up there. That's just how these Northern folks get down. And now Boose Rolton.
Oh my God. That I was not going to figure out what mistake was made there in a million years.
That's why I figured I had to help you out.
Yeah, I was like, Boose. That sounds like somebody's street name. That's my man Boose right there.
Isn't there a rapper named Lil Boose? Oh, that's Lil Boozy. Maybe.
Boozy. That's why I thought of it.
Jesus Christ. But no, so Stannis is sharing the news that Ramsay has been legitimized and that Roose Bolton is now the Warden of the North. And Stannis can't have that. But part of the deal for Stannis is that Jon needs to marry. I think it's Val he wants him to marry, because in Stannis's mind, like, the two of you together, that will bring both the North under, like, to my side, and the wildlings also, right? By this man, which is a weird thing, because I don't think Stannis understands at all how the wildlings work, and I think
not even a little.
I think Jon, like, giggles a little bit inside at this.
Literally laughs out loud.
Oh my,
Sean.
Oh my God, that's right. It is a real laugh out loud, isn't it?
Yes. He laughs out loud, and then he gets this look, and he suddenly realizes, like, that's not the reaction that he is wanting. Yeah, here it is. Perhaps Jon had ridden with the free folk too long, he could not help but laugh. Your Grace, captive or no, if you think you can just give Val to me, I fear you have a deal to learn about wildling women. Whoever weds her had best be prepared to climb in her tower window and carry her off at sword point. Whoever? Does this mean you will not wed the girl? I warn you, she's part of the price you must pay. And Jon is like, no, you're not getting my point, man.
Yeah, Stannis really does not understand what Jon is trying to explain to him in that moment.
Nope.
And yeah, like, Stannis really is expecting first Jon to, like, swear fealty to him, and then he's hoping to use Jon to then get the wildlings under heel. And under heel seems like a harsh word, but that's really what Stannis is trying to do. Yeah. And it just shows a deep lack of understanding of who these folks are. What it is they value, what it is where their honor is. Like, he should have had, like, I gave him credit for asking the right questions, but he should have had a couple of more follow-up questions for how to deal with the free folk. Like, all right, so I must have it wrong, Jon Snow. You spent time with them. Tell me more about what it is that they value, And maybe that's something that we get, because this chapter ends without Jon answering. So the conversation isn't really over. So, we might get that in the chapter, later or something.
I do really enjoy when Jon is like, can I think about it? And he's like, I guess, but, like, not really. Is basically the way he answers. He's like, yeah, but don't take very long.
Right. I'm just giving you this very, very important choice that's going to change your entire life, but I need you to be quick about it.
And I'm kind of salty that it wasn't an immediate, of course, anything you say.
Yeah, he is. He absolutely is. There's a conversation, too, about their brothers, because once the Winterfell offer is made, Jon is like, well, my brother was king of the North. Like, I'm not even really a Stark. And Stannis is like, what does he say? Your brother was the rightful Lord of Winterfell. And if he had stayed home and done his duty, maybe he'd still be alive. And I'm just like, God damn.
Yeah, Jon immediately is sort of like, well, fuck you then. And I'm like, Jon, look, I get you don't want to hear this about Robb, but he is not entirely wrong. Like, Robb decided to go ahead and do his own whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah. He, it says, Jon says, the harsh words had blown away whatever sympathy he had for Stannis.
Yep.
But Stannis immediately is like, yeah, you know what? I love my brother too. They were both what they were. You know, we loved them, but they were both wrong. They both got it wrong. And he's implying, we could right what they got wrong together is sort of what Stannis is suggesting, you know?
Yeah.
They can accomplish the true goals that their brothers should have been focused on, which is, I think, in Stannis' mind, saving the realm and having Stannis, be recognized as the true, like, heir to the throne right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Jon is taking all this in, and he's like, oh, also really quick, I want to mention that Stannis, like, what updates him, not just about Roose, but also what's going on with the Greyjoys, you know, and that it's a real mess in the North. Like,
yes.
You've been up at the Wall, Jon, and you've been out with the Free Folk. You haven't really been south of the Wall to the extent to see what's happening in the North. It's bleeding, is what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And Stannis says, I don't have the time or the strength to fix it. You know, I got a whole war happening. I need a Lord of Winterfell, a loyal Lord of Winterfell. And that's when, like, the bomb really drops. And Jon's like, he's looking at me. He's saying he needs a Lord of Winterfell, but he's looking right in my face. That can't be right.
Yeah, there is something about this moment of like Jon looking over either shoulder, wondering who just walked up that he's actually talking to.
Oh,
surprise!
It's pretty good. It is really good. And then Jon is just like, okay, I think you forgot though. I'm not a fucking Stark.
Yep.
And I think Melisandre is actually the one who's just like, oh, you have forgotten. The king can do what the fuck he wants, you know? Yeah. And this is when the whole Lord Snow starts, like, ringing in his own ears. And he's thinking about it. And then he admits, you know, Jon to himself is remembering a time in his life when he desperately wanted to be a Stark, you know? And dreamt of inheriting Winterfell, and then growing up.
I love that he's just like, now trying to imagine inheriting Winterfell. It's like, I'm hoping they'll all die.
Yeah,
that's fucked
yeah,
up.
Yeah. He's very, very uncomfortable with the idea of thinking about, like, remembering what he used to wish for, which is really kind of unfair because he wasn't wishing for everybody to die when he was little. That wasn't how your brain works.
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, then because he doesn't immediately fall to his knees, Stannis is just like, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe you're not who I thought you were.
Stannis, you've dropped a lot on this poor boy. Give him a moment, for Christ's sake.
And then, for no reason whatsoever, as Stannis is talking, he talks about Tormund and calls him Tormund Thunderfist. And yes, I just laughed all over again.
You're just like, Tormund, what now? Oh, sure. That sounds right. That's like acceptable, I guess.
Like, exactly. Like, there was like a millisecond of a pause as I read it, and then I was like, "Oh wait, no, but it checks out." And just kept right on going.
I wouldn't be surprised if he came up with some baudy ones.
Oh my god,
Tormund giant cock.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Like there are several all about the size of his dick. You know? There are some that he made up, but he also started a rumor that other people made it up for him. So
he starts at a new school. My friends call me Thunderfist.
Oh my!
Do they?
Oh my god! I'm not going to say the thing, but I hope you know. I can't say it.
What is it? I don't know. I feel like you're disappointed in me because I don't know what you're saying.
I am deeply disappointed in you. So,
is it a Simpsons reference?
It is not.
Okay.
So then Stannis starts talking about.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay, got it. Yep. So everybody listening is like, "Are you going to tell?" We are.
No,
not
we're not going to tell you. Sorry, I was trying to gracefully move along. So then Stannis starts talking about his talks with Mance, and Stannis has the nerve to call him a stubborn man and prideful, like it's that Spider-Man meme, right? Fucking.
Yep, that's the one. Correct meme choice.
And he's almost like disappointed, like, fuck, he's not giving me any choice. I'm gonna have to fucking put him to the fire. God damn it.
Yeah.
You know. And then they talk about they have the Lord of Bones, and that they've got a
Lord of Boning. There goes another one for Tormund.
This is all terrible. And Stannis says he's going to let them go through the wall if they swear to me. I'll let them pass through to get to safety, and I'm going to let them settle in the gift. And this had come up before, right? I forget who was having the conversation about it. Was it Stannis? And who spoke about the gift and then being like, but who's going to police the free folk once they're there? When did that conversation happen? Was that Jon talking to Mance when he was trying to treat before Stannis shows up?
I don't remember.
I think
no. I mean, I don't feel like that comes up in that conversation.
I can't remember where.
I feel like it has to have been a while back.
Yeah, but there was definitely conversation somewhere about having them settle in this area, and then somebody, I thought it was Jon and Mance, or maybe it was Jon and Tormund, because then someone says back to Jon about, like, well, we're not going to follow your rules and laws once we get down there. And you get like, psh, you can't, like, what you going to tell us we can settle there, but we can't live how we want to live? Like, that's not what we do. I could have swore it was Jon talking to Mance when Flint and them made him go down there. Woof. But
sorry.
But maybe maybe I'm mistaken. But anyway, so this is Stannis' plan. This is what he's thinking. And Jon says that my father had dreamed of resettling the gift, but he never thought about settling with the wildlings. And he did not fool himself. The free folk would make for unruly subjects and dangerous neighbors. But he tells Stannis, I agree.
Yeah, what do you think? It's like there's not really a good option here because otherwise then what? You just send them back over the wall and they're not going to fucking go quietly to their death.
Exactly. I think it's like a real no-win situation. And Jon thinks of this stuff to himself, but he doesn't challenge Stannis on it because I think he understands that this moment right now is not the moment to tell Stannis that this plan that he thinks is great and basically foolproof is actually not.
What's the opposite of foolproof?
Full of fools. It's fulfilled.
Fulfilled, indeed. Fool made instead of foolproof.
Fool made.
Not only
susceptible to foolery.
It's made by foolery.
So yeah, this is when he just makes a joke about Val and then asks for more time to think about this. And Stannis is just like, you can take a minute, but don't take too long.
Yeah.
And so it ends. So we don't get an idea of what Jon is going to say. Like I said at the beginning, I think he says no to this. Also, there's a couple of bits in this conversation where Jon is trying to be like, oh, but I can't though, because I'm a man of the Night's Watch. And that's when Melisandre's like, it doesn't matter that you swore to a tree.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you would think that Stannis would take the oath much more seriously.
I think that he takes an oath more seriously when he needs to.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Sometimes it's very easy for him to be like, oh, it's no big deal. Go
Yep.
ahead and break that oath and service to me. But other times he'll be outraged. Oath
How could
breaker.
you come against your own brother? And it's like, well, you did.
Yep.
You did do that.
Yeah, right.
Also,
like
though,
you
but-
also murdered your brother. I mean, so yeah, Stannis is a very like do as I say, not as I do type of dude.
I feel like he used to be much more of a like strict, and then he got screwed over one too many times and has just decided that if you get screwed over enough, then you could just do what you want because fate owes you.
Right. But the thing that's so interesting about Stannis is that he seems to feel like he can be as dishonorable as he wants because, like you said, he's been, disrespected and had so many people fail him and been slighted so often. But he thinks he can be dishonorable and it not affect his honor.
Yes. Yep.
Which is a weird mental gymnastics thing he's got going on. Which is, not that unheard of, even in real life.
Do you get a mental image when you think of the term mental gymnastics? Because I just always picture somebody coming flying off the parallel bars. You know those?
I do.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. I picture the uneven bars.
That's what it is. Yes. The uneven. And so I'm picturing like Stannis in one of those little leotard things. Like it's weirdly tight, but also weirdly loose. And you're kind of like, what are you going for here?
And you're flipping from one to the bottom and then back up to the top. And it's,
But he looks really fucking angry the whole time he's on those bars. And I'm just sort of like, sir.
It's really funny. I hadn't pictured his face. I was just
You're
picturing
flying through the air with the greatest of ease. Lighten up. Anyway, I'm sorry. This is where my mind goes sometimes. You know that thing you shared about ADD and internal monologues?
It is so wild to me that not everybody has one. I know we've talked about this before because it's come up before, but I just just sitting quietly with your brain just chilling. Like, I can't imagine what that is like. The only time I can pull that off is, and it's why I do it so often, I have to straight dissociate.
Yes.
Because otherwise my shit is just fucking on go all the time and none of it is useful or helpful. Not a drop of it.
The vacation we can all afford was the
right, the postcard. So then we go to Tyrion's chapter and all the things that I had been wondering when they were going to happen.
Indeed. Except for an extra thing that does not happen on the show. The confession from Jaime.
Yes. Didn't we just talk about that too? I was just talking about the story of Tysha and Jaime and wondering if it was as true as it was said. But I can't remember why we were talking about that. It was something Jaime said and that made me feel like it was, I think that he
said something about how he had debts to pay. And we were talking about how that can sound really ominous, but it could also be somebody doing you a favor.
Right.
And I think that you sort of were wondering if it had something to do with Tysha but you didn't have any like firm ideas.
No.
It was just sort of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. I know I was thinking about it recently, but I couldn't remember exactly to what extent. But yeah, we find out that that whole thing that happened was it the lie of it. She wasn't really a whore, She really did come from where she came from. Jaime couldn't, I don't think, is not in a position to be like, oh, she really did love you, because he,
right.
But what he could do is say, we didn't buy her for you. It was not a joke we had planned, And then Father forced me to tell you this lie. And I've been lying to you about it forever since.
Yeah.
And it is so upsetting that Tyrion tells Jaime that he killed Joffrey.
Yep.
Which we all know is not true.
Yep.
But he leaves and lets his brother believe that. And I know I said before I don't want to get bogged down trying to remember how it goes in the show, but I'm curious if Austin mentions, because I don't remember I don't remember Tyrion letting Jaime believe he really killed Joffrey in the show, but I don't know.
He does not.
Do you recall?
No, he does not tell Jaime.
Oh, I thought you were saying Austin does not mention it.
No, Austin actually does a full like side-by-side comparison here. In the show version, Tyrion and Jaime have interacted before Tyrion leaves. They depart on good terms. Tyrion goes to Tywin's quarters, sees Shae, strangling her after she sees him, and goes for a knife. Tyrion kills Tywin when he calls Shae a whore. In the book, as is. They haven't interacted at all. Seeing him in the cell is the first time Jaime has gone to Tyrion at all. And Shae does not try to, like, bring a weapon against Tyrion. He kills her when she is completely unarmed and completely at his mercy.
Yeah, he just strangles her. She's got no clothes on. She's just in the bed under a blanket.
Yep.
But she is in the bed, in his father's bed.
Yep.
And, well, okay, we'll start at the beginning of the chapter. Because I had been mentioning, like, I could have swore Jaime goes to visit Tyrion at some point, right? But I guess that's not happening in the book. And I was like, well, shit, maybe he never goes to see him. But he does. He shows up and is the reason Tyrion is able to get out. And it is this debt that he's repaying. Jaime is finally confessing and trying to make right by it, which you can't.
Nope.
But this is a good way to start, saving him from, getting his head lopped off in the morning. And they have a really, not funny, but he shows up, he's missing a hand. Tyrion's got no nose. And it's just like, it's so like obscene that, they can't do anything but laugh about it.
Yeah.
Especially when, these are Lannister men, and it is just, what does one of them say? Handless and noseless, the Lannister boys.
Yes, that's Tyrion. And Jaime is like, I'll tell you what, my hand smelled so nasty. I really wish I was noseless a couple of times. Because it got tied around his neck, if you remember, and just left flopping there for a while. It
is a real kind of fucking Abbott and Costello routine they got going on here for a minute. And then there's
That's the guy.
Oh, God, I heard that. I was like, what the fuck? That's the guy again?
That's the guy,
He's back?
He's been here. He's just not really going outside and doing this as much anymore. But he still does it upon occasion. Do you know last night Owen and I are taking the dogs for a walk, and Owen says real loud as we're passing the house, isn't it nice that Sean Palero's paying for us to live right next door?
Oh my God.
I swear to God I could have knocked him upside the head.
What's wrong with him?
Those who are not aware, I have a neighbor who is obviously got some like paranoid delusions, and he goes outside and screams at this guy, Sean Palero, who is a real person. Rashawn and I have like looked into this.
We did. Remember, we Googled the fuck out of that shit trying to crack the code.
And so this dude is like, thinks that man is like sending drones to spy on him, things like that. And he'll go outside and he'll just scream obscenities about Sean Palero, about Sean Palero's wife, about Sean Palero's kid.
Oh my God.
And then Owen just makes a joke to like feed into that. And like the guy wasn't outside or anything. I don't even think anybody was home, but it was just a real like, don't fucking do that. Come on, man. Like, Jesus. It's all fun and games until somebody shows up at your house in the middle of the night. I said to Owen after he said, I was like, I'm going to tell Rashawn on you.
That is the funniest fucking thing I've heard in a long time. I love Owen so much.
I hate you both. Shut up. Get the fuck out of here.
It's just, has people don't know. People don't know about Owen.
They don't.
Y'all don't know. Owen has got a streak in him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I love it.
It doesn't come out that often because he is like so beaten down by circumstance so much of the time these days. But we went to a New Year's event with some people that we were just meeting for the first time, and he cracked me up all night. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is the guy that like charmed me right out of the gate. Like, I just haven't seen this guy in a while, you know? And man, he is fucking funny. Made me so mad though. Do not like.
There's just the part of me that like it's like the fucking middle finger to everybody all the time for any reason part of me that is just like a little ember that burns deep in my soul. Oh, it also has that.
Definitely.
And it just comes out sometimes and I fucking stand. Oh shit.
Anyway.
All right. So
they have this little moment and it's all warm and jolly until Jaime is like, I'm helping you because I owe you. And Tyrion's like, what do you mean? And he's like, I'll tell you later. And Tyrion's like, yo, no, you won't. Yeah. You're going to tell me now. Yeah. What's up? You seem real weird.
It's like, I wanted it to stop. To stop. And there's a moment, Tyrion is like, Jaime is afraid.
Yep.
And then that's when he's just like, because at first it's all kind of jokey, right? I was a debt I owed you. And then Tyrion's like, oh, a debt, I don't get it. And Jaime's like, oh, you don't have to get it. And oh, tell me, it's going to make me cry. I'll try not to cry in front of you, you know? And then when he realizes that Jaime is legit afraid to admit whatever it is he needs to admit, that like jokey joke tone changes.
Yep.
And Tyrion is like, tell me.
What the fuck?
You know?
Yeah.
And his brother just says her name. And then Tyrion gets like that knot in your stomach. Okay, what about her? And that's when, and Jaime just like, she wasn't a whore. I didn't buy her. That was a lie. She was what she said she was. She was just like some small guys, not small guy, but you guys know what I mean. Like a commoner.
Crofter's daughter.
Yeah, I don't know what a crofter is.
I've looked this up a million times and I never retain it. I'm going to look it up right now.
But I figure some type of laborer of some sort, maybe a smith. No,
a person.
Not a smith.
I'm sorry. I just looked it up, crofter, and it just says a person who farms a croft. Thank you for fucking that.
Is the least helpful fucking definition I've ever heard.
A croft is a small rented farm, especially one in Scotland, comprising a plot of arable land attached to a house and with a right of pasturage held in common with other such farms.
Oh, it's like a sharecropper.
Yeah, I guess so.
Gotcha. So very lowborn.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this confession, Tyrion has the like that thing that happens where it's like you're in a tunnel, like you can't. You know what I mean? Like he says he could hear the faint sound of his own breath. And yeah, Jaime's just like, yeah, she married you for your gold, Dad said, you know? She was low born. You were a Lannister. It had to be about the money. That made her a whore. Even if technically you didn't buy her or I didn't buy her, she married you for your money. So yeah, same diff. And fucking Tyrion just like goes fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
Loses his entire like everything. Hits Jaime in the face.
Yeah, knocks him down.
Yeah.
Granted, Jaime is like crouching and unstable at the moment, but nevertheless.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he says, what is it? Father said that it wasn't really a lie and that you would learn from this a lesson you needed to learn and that you would thank me later. And it's the fucking thank me that Tyrion is just like cannot swallow. And then, you know, we're reminded about what happened to her and how Tyrion was made not only to just watch it, but also to participate. And he just keeps saying, she was my wife. You know, she was my wife. And yeah, he hits Jaime. Jaime tumbles over, but the Tyrion like goes to stalk off, and then is reminded that he's actually in the middle of being rescued from prison, and that he can't just storm off.
There's something about that was so undignified. I felt so bad for him.
Right? So
He just like and then just stops and has to like tap his foot. Come on.
So yeah, his brother like continues to like let him out, and he tells Jaime that he doesn't want to be rescued by you anymore. I'm not going with you. You give me the fucking keys and I'll figure it out. I'll find my own way out. I'll find Varys, who is part of the plan. You fucking go away. I can't even look at you anymore is basically where that ends. And then before Jaime goes, he says, I told you the truth, which there should be a finally in there, because he won a lot of credit for somebody who's telling like a 30-year-old truth,
right?
You know, but he's on his whole, I just told you the truth, so you got to give me the same. Did you kill Joffrey? And the question is just another fucking insult.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another, like right after you just told me this terrible fucking thing that you did, and then you're asking me if I murdered your son. Like, you think I'm capable of that? Fuck you.
Yep. So
he, there's also a mention too about this knife. Because before
he tells Jaime, and Jaime's just like, oh yeah, I kind of thought he might have done that. And I was just like, what?
Yeah. And and then he tells Jaime also about Cersei, he calls her a whore, a lying whore. So she's been fucking Lancel and Osmond Kettle Black, and probably Moon Boy, which was a low blow, for all I know. And then he's like, yeah, I killed your fucking son. He was a monster. He'd been terrible as a king. He would probably killed me if you became king. So yeah, I fucking did it. And it's not true.
It certainly isn't.
But in this moment, he needs to hurt his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing that he has in his arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jaime just walks away. And that's it. That's it.
Yep.
That's how that shit ends. And it's a real bummer.
Yep. So then he goes and meets Varys and winds up in a spot that he knows is right below the Tower of the Hand.
Mm-hmm.
I love how he's like, oh, this is right below my bedchamber. And Varys is like, nah, Daddy's bedchamber.
And he's also says to Varys when he first sees him, like, I was looking for you, sent for you at the trial. What was that all about? Like he doesn't already understand.
Come on, sir.
Right? You know exactly what the fuck that was about. And Varys,
he keeps trying to be like, oh, he betrayed me. And I'm like, yo, betrayal implies that he was ever your ally. And he's made it so clear he never was your ally.
Absolutely. And you know you're smarter than that. You knew what this was, Tyrion. Like this thing you're trying to play as though Varys is going to feel guilty about not showing up for you when you needed him, when that has never been the relationship. It has always been transactional, you know. So why are you acting like it's your first day here?
There was nothing in it for him, and so he did what he needed to do, as he's always done.
Absolutely. And he even says, you know, Cersei was watching me. Of course she was. Which he could have probably still maneuvered if it had benefited him. But to your point, it didn't. So why was he going to put himself in extra danger? Nah, not doing that.
And he's out here helping save your life. So I feel like that counts for more, honestly. You know, like, yeah, he didn't show up for you at the trial. But honestly, I don't feel like even if he had, that it would have changed what was going on. Because she's out here paying people to say whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he is coming in where it does the most good, frankly, which is to actually save your life.
And when Tyrion tries to kind of be like, oh, super suspicious that you're helping me now, but didn't help me before. And Varys is like, well, you know what? Your brother can be most persuasive. And that's all he really has to say about that. So it does beg a couple of questions.
Yeah.
But fucking Tyrion, you're as cold and slimy as a slug. Has anyone ever told you that? You did your best to kill me. Perhaps I ought to return the favor. Tyrion is really feeling wrathful right now.
Yep. So then when he's like, oh, so my dad's up there, huh? This cracks me up because Varys is like, yeah, but we don't have time for any of that right now. And Tyrion's like, yeah, but how far up is it? And he's like, well, it's like 281 rungs. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go. And Varys is like, no, you can't go. It's like the first left. Wait, what? Sir, like he's giving him these directions, but he's also like, no, you mustn't. Right. And I'm like,
There's, he asks Varys about Sansa as well, and he says that there's no news, but also the Dantos has not been seen since that night either. It's all very, very convenient, don't you think?
Yes.
And claims that his little birds are silent. There was just so much confusion. He hasn't been able to get any information, and I don't believe him. And then, there's a little bit of a conversation about where they are. And there are 4 levels of dungeons, and they are, I think, in the 3rd level, but there's a 4th level that is so horrible that like no one who ever goes down there makes it back up.
Yeah.
And this is where they are heading. It's so bad that Varys is like, you're going to want to give me your hand and close your eyes because there are things here you do not want to fucking see.
Yikes.
Yeah. And we don't get any more real information about that, but I guess it's pretty fucking bad.
He also tells him that there are traps set. So like, you're going to need me to lead your feet so that you don't get caught up in something. And I'm just sort of like, what the fuck does that mean?
That's what he says when Tyrion is all like, maybe I should kill you right now.
Yeah.
Varys is like, you can do that, but then you'll just be lost down here. And there's traps. You'll never make it out alive. And Tyrion is like, yeah, you know what? I actually don't know how to get out of here, do I?
Yeah, there's a part of me that's sort of like, are there traps? Like, I don't know how much to believe that. But honestly, if anything, if there hadn't been traps, I wouldn't put it past Varys to add some traps.
Listen.
You know what I mean?
When I read that, I 100% took it as though Varys being like, yeah, I got traps all up in this bitch. I did not read it as though these are just long-standing traps because this is the 4th level of the dungeons and that's just how terrible it is down here. I 100% took it as, Varys has booby-trapped the fuck out of this entire place.
Gotcha. I like that. Okay, yeah, we'll go with that then.
So then we get to the part where he realizes that they're directly beneath the Tower of the Hand and that he just wants to go up there real quick.
Just a little pit stop.
I'm just going to be up there for like a minute. Not a big deal. And he climbs all the way up there, tells Varys to wait for him, which I thought Varys would be like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. But goes up into his old room. And, the hearth is lit, which for some reason makes him laugh really hard. But he's just in such a state,
Yeah, he's fucked up.
And he hears her voice. And he reaches the bed. She has no idea who it is. She's just assuming that it's Tywin coming back from the bathroom. And he pulls the little draperies back that surround the bed. And says to her, were you expecting someone taller? And she immediately burst into tears, says she didn't mean any of the things she had said, says that, your father frightens me so much that I just basically do whatever he says.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyrion sees that she's wearing a chain of little golden hands around her neck. And he just is looking at her with this, I don't know, just like, I thought about you so much when I was in the cell, thinking about how beautiful you were, and ask her, did you ever even fucking like it when we were together, when I touched you, And she claims that she did, and then she calls him my giant of Lannister, which was a mistake.
Real miscalculation on her part.
Don't know what she was thinking.
Very good at deciding what to say, when to, but wow, she missteps like a motherfucker right here. Huge misstep. And the only thing I can think is that she is just caught so unawares, because you're right, she has been playing this game masterfully. And this just, and you know what, I wonder if I don't know if anybody cares or not,
do we even wonder, do we care if she means it? You know, do we have feelings about whether or not she really cared for Tyrion in a way?
I personally don't think she did.
Mm.
I think that it was really clear from the outset that she was trying to like get what she could, and that she was very honest with him about that. And he admired her for that at first, and then sort of chose to forget that she had said it.
And
You
then,
know what I mean?
And then once he chose to start to believe that it was something else, she just let him continue to believe that.
Yeah.
And begin to match his energy because she was still on her original plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way I don't blame her for that, to be honest. I know it's very easy to sort of see Shae as this like faithless gold digger type, but like women just have no fucking options in this universe, and she was doing what she needed to do. And honestly, she was doing what most women have to do, except she was doing it as transactionally and, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, as honestly as it's possible to do it.
Right.
But she got wrapped up with somebody who wanted the lie attached.
Yeah. That's the thing. And then, like, when you think about how she came into the story and what she was doing at the time, which was servicing like an entire vanguard, if I recall, you know, just like one of probably hundreds of women that were, you know, trading sexual favors for protection or food or money or whatever, or just trying to stay alive, you know. And then she gets this fucking opportunity of a lifetime to hook up with this really, really rich and, quite frankly, powerful man from a powerful family. Like that's option A. Or I could just go back to being in the field, you know, servicing soldiers and hoping I live through the night.
Yep.
Of course she's going to take the other option.
Yep.
But
and at one point he says something like, well, I want you to tell me the truth about such and such. And she says, but that'll cost you double. And he thinks to himself, we'll get along splendidly. Like, he's delighted by that answer in the moment.
Yep.
But he gets too caught up, and he can't maintain that objectivity about it.
Yeah. He ends up falling for her, which is, from what I understand, like a story as old as time.
Indeed.
So yeah, then he fucking just strangles her. And it does not go into great detail. It doesn't seem like it takes much from him. There's no mention that she fights back. Not only to your point earlier about how in the show they have her grab a knife, but not only does she not have a weapon of any kind, it doesn't mention her fighting for her life at all, which is a weird thing to leave out, in my opinion. But, you know, whatever.
I feel like it's just almost like she knows she's going to die as soon as he shows up, and there's no point in fighting. Like, there is a sort of inevitability in her mind at once he's out and in her face. She knows. Yeah. It's just too late, you know?
Because, I mean, I don't know. I feel like she probably could have took him in a fight.
I mean, she could, but what would that get her? Like, my question about this whole thing, and this is something that has come up with some people, is whether or not she was actually fucking Tywin. It's positioned this way that she was in his bed waiting for him, right? But Tywin was so anti-whore, and one could say that it's just the actual appearance of it, and that if he's keeping it secret, like, you know, and bringing her to his bed in a way that nobody else can see, then he's fine with it, as long as it's not a subject of gossip amongst the people in the castle.
That's sort of my take.
So if that's the case, and she starts fighting, and there's anybody around, and they come in and find her there, what happens to her then? Like, does she know if he's trying to keep it secret? Is she aware how important that is to Tywin?
I would, she tells Tyrion when he shows up, one of the first things she says is about how afraid of Tywin she is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that is like, she is very, very crafty, very smart,
Yep.
right? And knows how to work most men that she encounters.
Yep.
But does that work on a man like Tywin? And for
Yeah.
some reason, I think it doesn't.
Okay.
Maybe I'm giving him too much credit or not giving her enough. But I believe she really is frightened of I believe two things. I believe she really is legit afraid of Tywin. But I also believe she's engaging in this sort of whatever this relationship they have, and is probably playing the role to the best of her ability. Almost like she's faking how, like, faking the whole thing, faking that she is wanting to be with him, faking that she's not terrified of him, trying to pretend like, oh, you don't scare me.
Gotcha. Okay.
But deep down inside, she's like, this motherfucker is crazy and cruel, and this is no good for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if she fights back against Tyrion, in this moment, she has to like run immediately. She can't.
Right.
She can't just be there when Tywin comes out and finds like a dead Tyrion on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like she would. I feel like faced off between Tyrion and how afraid she is of Tywin, I don't know how far she gets. Maybe that's what I'm underestimating. Is how does she actually get out of the tower? Like,
she's buck-ass naked right now. And there are a couple guards right outside talking about how great it would be to fuck her.
Yeah, that's true too. So she really can't get out. I don't know. I guess there's something about her passively letting Tyrion kill her, though, that just bothers me.
Okay.
And I don't like it. I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense for the story, but I think what it is I'm really, really uncomfortable about it in a surprising way. I don't know exactly why, but I don't like it.
Honestly, I don't like the questions that I'm asking. It's not even really about that for me. To me, it's just that George R. Martin doesn't really want to get into the gruesome details of it that much. He just wants it to be like, this is what Tyrion did, and it's not about Shae at all.
Yeah, and this is what I don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I don't like about it. I guess it's fair. It is Tyrion's POV, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just don't like that it's, I don't know, just the way it's, even the way it's written, it's like 2 sentences. And it's, he slid a hand under his father's chain, which is another weird thing too. His father has given her a trinket, and that seems out of character for him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But there's no time to like talk about it or anything, but it just seems weird. It doesn't seem like something Tywin would do. Give a whore a trinket? That's not.
Maybe he didn't give it to her and she just like, grabbed it off of a night table or something.
My God.
It was like, oh, isn't this cute? Like, you're the hand and I got hands on my tits.
That's funny.
Seems like the kind of thing she would do, thinking it was charming, and Tywin would not be particularly amused by it.
That is really, oh my God, can you imagine? That's funny. I didn't even think of that. But yeah, just he slid his hand under his father's chain and twisted. The links tightened, digging into her neck. And then, for hands of gold are always cold, but a woman's hands are warm, he said. He gave cold hands another twist as the warm ones beat away his tears. And I get that.
So I guess that's her fighting back?
Maybe as the warm ones beat away his tears, I guess that's supposed to be her fighting back, but I don't know. You were going too hard for poetry in this moment, George Martin, and I don't know. It just didn't work for me. But after that's done, there's a moment where he is looking around the room, and he snatches a dagger off the bedside table. And then he has 3 weapons that he can choose from.
Yes, indeedy.
And eventually he opts for a crossbow, I think, because that is the one that makes the most sense. And it's also the one he can reach, because there's a mace, but he can't even get up high enough to get it.
So insulting.
There's like I think an axe, and that is just like not something he's going to be able to wield in a way to make sense. And he's got a little bit of comfort with the crossbow, because I think he says at some point someone made sure he learned how to use it. Jamie had lectured him more than once about how to use the crossbow. And then he goes and finds his father on the shitter. And his father does not seem to understand the situation.
He really is unconcerned.
He really reads this very wrong.
Yep.
Worse than Shae. And treats Tyrion as if he's a joke. You're standing there in front of me. First of all, what are you doing? How'd you get out of your cell?
Mm-hmm.
And then his father immediately goes to Varys. It never even thinks of Jaime. Goes to Varys immediately. Tells Tyrion that this whole plan of yours is a joke. You're not fucking, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? I'm not even going to kill you. Why are you being so dramatic?
That is the energy,
you, right?
Of just like, oh my God,
right.
You're really making this into a whole thing.
Jesus Christ, we're not going to chop your head off. We just said that. I'm going to send you to the wall. I just needed to get the Tyrells on board, you know?
Do you think this is true?
Girl, I don't know what to say.
I'm all over the place with this. Like, part of me is like, I think he wouldn't want to kill Tyrion. I think that he would try and get the wall if he still could. But then another part of me is like, he's going to say whatever he needs to.
Exactly.
Because he's got a fucking thing in his face. And then I'm like, but I don't think he even thinks Tyrion's going to do it. So he wouldn't care.
I really don't know what to make of it, because there's a part of me, and I think this is more that we humanize even characters that don't show any traces of humanity. It is so upsetting to imagine a world where Tywin would legit let his son's head get chopped off, right? Like, you just don't want that to be the thing. So there's a part of me that's like, he would not have let his son go down like that. Would he? No, he couldn't have. But there is nothing that in these books that say Tywin would not absolutely fucking do that. I feel
it's interesting to me because, like, when you say I think it's so upsetting that I don't want to believe it, that's not part of it for me at all. I would 100% believe it, and it wouldn't even really bother me that much because it feels so consistent in some ways. It's just more of a pride thing. Like, for Tywin, there's his actual pride, and then there's the reputation, right? There's the way that you try and maintain your appearance of having absolutely everything under control at all times. And then there's the dirty business of actually controlling things. Mm-hmm. And I can't decide which is the more important to him, that it looks like they actually punished the killer and like make an example out of Tyrion, or that one of his own blood doesn't just get executed in this way.
I think it's the former. I think that to save face, Tywin would, because first of all, he has never really considered Tyrion to be a true representation of a Lannister. You know,
okay,
right?
True.
So I think he would be able to convince himself that Tyrion has never been anything but an embarrassment, and that he is long past being dealt with this way. You know, that he shouldn't have been able to live and embarrass the family for as long as he did. And then having a son who killed the king, who was also like your family, so you're a king / kin slayer. That is just too much of a blight, and that it needs to be handled by a real TM Lannister, right? Someone has got to step up and save the family name. And in order to do that, you have to deal with this person who has disgraced your family, you know? So for me, that part checks out. It's just,
I was thinking that because he said to Tyrion at one point, like, despite everything, those are my colors you wear on your breast, and you're a Lannister, whether I think you're actually one or not. Like, I can't disprove that you're mine.
Right.
I sort of keep that in mind, but like maybe it's reached a point where it's not that for him anymore.
Yeah, because I'm trying to imagine, like, there's a certain amount of shame that goes with sending somebody off to the wall, right? Mm-hmm. And as long as, not that the shame ends with Tyrion's death, but I think in Tywin's brain, it may a little bit. Like, as long as Tyrion is alive and serving out his life sentence in shame at the wall, that is a chink in the armor of what it is to be a Lannister,
Okay.
But if you deal with it and it's done and he's dead, and then you've shown the whole world, like, this is how we get down. Like, we take this shit so seriously that we'll do it to our own. You know, so please understand, do not fucking test us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the message seems to me a lot stronger if that's what being prideful about being a Lannister, if that's what's important. I feel like that message is stronger than the message of letting Tyrion like slink away to like die in shame and exile. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I see what you mean. I'm not totally convinced either way, but I understand your argument.
Right. And again, like, I go back and forth on, like I said earlier, like, me not wanting Tywin to actually go through with killing his son, for me, is much more just about the sort of sentimentality of it. Like, God damn it, really? Your own son?
Yeah.
But as far as your original question of, is he telling the truth in this moment about, like, I really did want to talk to Tyrell and really did get them to agree? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. And it ends up not fucking mattering, because guess what? Tyrion doesn't give a fuck about that shit either. And
yeah, Tyrion is like, don't say the word whore again. That's literally all this man had to do. Yep. And I'm not sure Tyrion went into this intending to kill him.
Yeah, the way it's written, it feels like he says the word and his finger goes without even fucking thinking about it. But he's in such a state, because what he wants to do is he wants to talk to his father about Tysha right now.
Yep.
His father is, again, taking a shit with his son with a crossbow pointed to him, who has just escaped out of prison, who was supposed to be murdered tomorrow. So Tywin is thinking about that stuff.
Yep.
And Tyrion wants to talk about some stuff that happened 20 years ago. And his father doesn't even recognize the name. And that is not good.
Yeah, that's a real rough one. It's not surprising.
It's really not surprising
at all. Like, he's just like, who?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't believe for a second Tywin bothered to learn her name 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
I bet he never once called her by her fucking name. So why would he remember it? But yeah, so Tyrion's like, next time you say that word, I'll kill you. Tywin's just like, oh, you don't got the stones for it.
When are people going to learn not to do that with somebody who's pointing a weapon?
Like
y'all don't. Just don't.
Just don't do it. Why are you trying to make them prove the point? Like,
that's exactly it. Like, you're trying to force their hand to prove something.
Yeah.
Like,
and then you just end up the one shot. Like, what was your end game? So
I guess you've just got to be really sure that they're not going to do it. And like, you must really think that you're going to have the weapon in your hand the next moment and be like laughing at them.
But it very rarely ever turns out that way.
It doesn't seem like it works very often, I must say.
So Tyrion wants to know what happened after, the humiliation, after what you did. What happened to her? Where did she go? And Tywin is like, I really have no fucking idea. Like, we paid her. They sent her on her way. She wasn't important enough. I think he says, I never even thought to ask. Like, she was so small and insignificant a chapter of our life. It never even occurred to me to ask what the fuck happened to her next. And Tyrion presses, okay, you sent her on her way. Where, though? And Tywin says, wherever whores go. For reasons I do not understand.
She wasn't a whore, though, sir.
And yeah, Tyrion's finger clenched, crossbow wanged, and that motherfucker has been shot in the belly.
Yep.
You shot me, he says, incredulously.
This is a real fucking Austin Powers moment here. You shot me. Oh. You shot me right in the gut. Oh, this hurts so bad.
And so, his father is just like, you are no son of mine, which at this point.
Wow.
Right?
Like, sir, what power does that hold? Like, come on. He is just miscalculating wildly all over the place.
All over the place. And to that, Tyrion is just like, actually, no, you got me fucked up. Because I'm pretty much you. I am what you made me. And like, do me a favor and die real quick, because I got shit to do. And then it says the best line ever. For once, his father did what Tyrion asked him. And he dies on the fucking privy. And the last line of the chapter is, it turns out that Tywin Lannister did not, in the end, shit gold. But bump. Yeah, and that's the end. It's a really it is a really embarrassing end for a man
undignified
like of Tywin Lannister's stature. It is really unfortunate. So what this means is that eventually people are going to come in the morning and they're going to find two things. They're going to find a dead Shae, a dead whore in Tywin's bedchamber, which is going to, like, I don't know if the news will spread, but, you know, it'll get out. And also him dead in the bathroom. So, yeah, for a man that was so obsessed with his legacy, this is no good. No good.
Yep. So that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to touch on the very clear differences here with the show. This particular change was one of the first really major changes. And I was fucking furious about it.
Which change are you talking about?
That there is so much changed.
Oh, okay.
First, Jaime never says the thing about Tysha. There's no like confession with him, so that Tyrion and Jaime part on great terms, with Tyrion simply being grateful to his brother for saving his life. Completely different. Shae trying to defend herself and getting a weapon so that he is sort of like forced to kill her because otherwise she was going to raise the alarm. Tywin's like death is the only thing about Tysha that comes up is the fact that he calls her a whore, and that's supposed to be what sort of sends Tyrion off into shooting him.
Does he call Shae a whore on the show or Tysha a whore on the show?
Tysha, because Tyrion asks about Tysha here, even though
there's no conversation with Jaime.
No.
Interesting.
So the tone of this escape is so wildly different, because in the show, it really is still feeling like, wow, Tyrion, the guy who did nothing wrong, has been...
want to make him... it was very important that he be likable.
Very, very much so.
And like having him lie to Jaime and not be grateful for the rescue, but then turn around and lie about Joffrey, and then killing Shae unarmed. Those are not things that makes us like, he's our fave. Mm-hmm. We don't want to see him act this way or be complicated or, you know, conflicted.
Which is sort of weird, because HBO seems like they're a big fan of having faves do problematic shit. You know what I mean? Like, they do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be honest, I thought they would relish having Tyrion suddenly take a turn here and be like really doing some fucked up things. And they just don't do it. And I thought that was a lot more cowardly and tame than they have been on many another TV show that they have done.
Mm.
I was just kind of mystified by it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know, like, when you're talking about this show in particular and, like, what HBO was willing to do is one thing, but what the showrunners are willing to do, I think, has much more to do with those guys. And
well, sure, but, like, why did they have a problem with it?
I mean, but we have talked about this before with other characters where they just are, like, so intent on making us, like them that they dull some of the edge to them. You know,
I just don't understand the reason, because like,
I don't understand why they make this choice, but I'm just saying it's a choice they seem to have made multiple times throughout the series. Like, True. They just got it in their heads for whatever reason, you know.
And they do it in what do you call it? Not Fire and Blood, which is always what I want to call it. House of the Dragon.
Yeah, because you talked about some of that on that as well. I don't know. I don't know if it's just a lack of trust in the audience, or I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, quite frankly, because there are a lot of shows that we all watch every week and the numbers are bananas, and these people are not good people. They're not nice people. They're doing terrible things. And again, these shows, it's like they don't mind having a person be terrible, but what they don't do is take a person and let them be both.
Yeah.
You know, like they'll give us a bad guy. They'll even give us a anti-hero, which I think is being used like way too much anymore.
Agreed.
But you know, they'll give us that, but they won't like be like, here's your main, you know, and you're gonna love them and you're gonna root for them, and then out of nowhere they're gonna do some fucked up shit that has you questioning your judgment. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like this, like Damon on House of the Dragon, where they cut out, according to the internet, cut out a lot of scenes with him and his second wife, the Valerian.
Yeah.
They
and
cut
the children.
and the children, like they cut all that stuff out because why? Because we need him to just be like the villain, you know, who's lurking around, you know, banging wives in the head with rocks, and you know what I mean, like you know, like I don't know, it was like we couldn't have the character be all of those things at once. I don't know what it is. I don't know what that's about.
But this was something that I was in particular looking forward to, because people were such huge fans of Tyrion, show watchers. And don't get me wrong, same. But also I found this like turn fascinating and really like emotionally satisfying, because the reason that he kind of loses it is so understandable. That the level of revelation that has happened with Jaime is so enormous, and the betrayal is so intense, and Jaime really, as much as Jaime is afraid to tell him, you just know Jaime doesn't understand fully the level of what he has done wrong here, because he doesn't fully grasp what Tysha meant to Tyrion. So I really like, this is awful shit that Tyrion is doing, but also part of me kind of understood how you get so worked up after everything that he has been through in the past week that you're finally like, no, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I killed him. I fucking killed him. Fuck you. Fuck this guy. Fuck that bitch. Like, and it just bummed me out so much that they made it incredibly bland. And no, him and his brother are good buddies, and his brother just saves him, and then he just kills his bad dad and the bad whore and just runs away. The bad whore who was going to try and kill him, you know, like, come on, man, really? It was just so basic.
Was there a bit of like outrage from book readers?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Because a lot of people find Tyrion's character to be compelling due to the fact that he can be both incredibly sympathetic and intelligent, and so easy in some ways to like manipulate, because he is so emotionally stunted. You know, he has never had anybody care about him. And the people who, like the few people who have, turning out to have done this to him, it's a real chink in his armor.
Yeah.
And he has pretty fucking solid armor.
Yeah.
But this is just this is something that turns him from being the smartest man in the room to just like another man in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is smart. Yeah, he has all of this like cunning to him, but there are some things that you can press on that cause him to just fall apart.
Right.
You know?
I wonder like the depth of the betrayal when you remember how much Tyrion idolizes Jaime.
Yes.
You know, how Jaime is like the only person in his family that's ever shown him anything close to affection.
Yep.
You know, that's the only person that he's ever gotten it from. The only person that's ever protected him, stood up for him, any of that shit. There's even a line in this chapter where Tyrion makes a joke about something happening to him because his brother wasn't there to protect him. You know? And then finding out that the worst thing that ever happened to you, and we know this is the worst thing that ever happened to Tyrion in his mind, because he talks about it. He always talks about what happened to Tysha. You know, it is like, what do you call that thing? Like a defining event in his life,
Yep.
And Jaime has known two things the entire time. One, I think Jaime knew just how important Tysha was.
Do you?
I
Okay.
do. I honestly believe he does. I believe that is why the guilt and the shame is so deep for Jaime, because he does understand what he did, and also, even though this is confession time as far as Jaime is concerned, he never really takes any ownership for what he did.
No.
It is, father said this, father made me do that, and so on. And then there's Tyrion getting this news. Like, if Jaime had been like, I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't even know. I just found out myself, I just got this news yesterday. But that's not what happened. He knew the whole time.
Yeah.
And if it had been anybody else but Jaime, anybody else that was in on this lie, if it had been Cersei, well, he already hates Cersei and doesn't,
Sure.
it would have been just another fucking betrayal of hers. But for it to come from Jaime, I think that's why he goes so over the ledge here,
There's even a moment where he's like kind of flipping out because it's so dark, and then he thinks Jaime wouldn't be scared because that's like his automatic go-to thing.
Yep.
It's like, well, what would my brother do?
Yep.
And has to be like, oh, but that shit stain is a big fucking liar, so who
Yep.
cares?
Yep.
But it's such a reflex that he copes with things that way.
Yeah. And so he's been like, robbed of Tysha, and now robbed of what he thought he had with Jaime, robbed of who he thought Jaime was to him, or what he was to Jaime. Like, all that's gone now. Yeah. But the show, the show's going to show. Were there any other things that Austin mentioned? We got the confession not being part of the show.
Let's see.
The knife that the show included that wasn't part of the books.
There is some stuff in here that I'm not entirely sure I should share with you.
Okay.
Because it's like fan theory stuff, and a part of me is like, this is fine, and another part of me feels like there are some events later that I may want to bring this up, because none of it's like it's documented. One of the things is something that we have talked about, which is a mention of a passageway to Chataya's brothel that Tyrion used in a previous book.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mentioned that it was built, quote, on the orders of a hand of the king whose honor would not allow him to enter such a house openly. And it says,
shit! They talk about that's Tywin's tunnel from back when he was the hand back in the day. So he's always been a whoremonger himself.
That's what it says. Chataya's brothel has only been in King's Landing for about 20 years, during which the only hand would have been in the position long enough for the tunnel to be made is Tywin.
Interesting.
Interesting. And then, I'll just say the next one, because this one doesn't really have anything. Further and more subtly, one of the prostitutes in the brothel is Marie, a fair-skinned, blonde-haired, green-eyed woman who would have been born during the time Tywin was hand. It has been heavily speculated by fans and all but confirmed by Martin that Marie is Tywin's bastard daughter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which, considering that, I'm sorry if you guys can hear my fucking cat. She is drama incarnate. But there's a moment in which Oberyn is talking about like a blonde whore because they are fantasizing about eventually getting to fuck Cersei. And I'm like, I wonder if this is the chick. Like,
that's funny.
Very close to fucking Cersei, I guess. Closer than you realize, sir. There is also a fan theory, the fact that Tywin is on the shitter. Now, he could just be on the shitter because he had to take a shit in a normal way. But there are some people who think that maybe he was affected by a poison that Oberyn gave him.
Oh, huh.
And it just taken a little bit longer than usual.
That's
so,
funny.
you know. I enjoy that theory personally. I'm just like, all right, let's let Oberyn have a little bit of a win here after death. Sure, why not?
I would have preferred he just did a lot less yapping.
Oberyn?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking, yeah, definitely. Talk about drama incarnate. So, yeah. So this just, I've been excited for you to get to this part because it's so different in so many ways that I think are really important character-wise. And for me, just really changed, like, the energy with which Tyrion sets out from King's Landing in the show and the way things happen to him, the whole vibe that you, like, the way you look at him is very different when you know this versus the way it goes with him just, you know, killing the bad people, being friends with his brother and sailing off. Like, it just feels really different.
Yeah, this has got very, like, dark Tyrion energy.
Yeah.
You know, like, he, like, now, you know, when he left on the show, you still thought of him as basically, not that he's still not a good guy, but, like, the energy was like, oh, off on new fun adventures. And this feels more like, I'm off to see how many other people I can kill who have it coming.
There is, yeah, like he's on a fucking rampage now. And I just really wonder if he goes, like, I'm assuming from here he just goes back down and meets with Varys. And I'm wondering if Varys, if he like turns up with this fucking crossbow still, and Varys is like, what were you doing, buddy? What's going on?
I really hope that he just leaves it there in the bathroom so he can climb down that ladder, because I don't know if he can do the crossbow in the ladder.
That's true. I forget about the ladder. So I mean, yeah, I guess you're right.
I guess it's got like a sling on it or something. Maybe you can throw it over your shoulder. I don't know about crossbows. It's been a long time since I held one. But I have
a lot of questions, but I won't ask them here. I won't ask them on a recording.
I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking around. I've never actually held one. But I like people to think that I have. But yeah, I'm trying to picture him like climb.
Just trying to create a mystique.
Climb down that fucking ladder with a, you know, crossbow in one hand and the guilt that you just murdered two other people in the other hand. It doesn't leave a lot of hands left.
Man, I wonder, like, do you have any predictions?
I do
here?
not. I do
okay.
Nope.
We've only got 2 more episodes until this book is over. And I'm wondering if I should like tell you who's coming up, but I think I won't. There is one of the chapters is actually the epilogue, which as usual, you know, we have an epilogue that is the same length as a regular chapter. So that will suffice because there's only 3 more regular actual chapters left after that.
Okay.
But yeah, and like, don't get me wrong, there are still going to be some things that happen similarly to the way they do in the show. Not everything is like totally different, but the context of a lot of things is really different. And, you know, like, for example, Tyrion does kill his dad. And yes, he kills Shae, but the whole way that this happens is it's just different. It feels different, and it changes his character a lot to know the way that it happens here. And so there's a lot of that where, sure, an actual event goes down, but the significance of it is what is totally changed. And then there's things that just don't happen at all and are real weird. And that is the stuff that I think a lot of us are interested to see your reaction to as well. But yeah, you didn't, like, I expected you to have more of a reaction to the changes in this though, and it doesn't seem like they even registered.
Well, because you keep thinking that I remember what happened on the show, and I keep telling you I don't.
Well, I guess that's true. Like, you have some things that you remember though. So I guess I expected like the revelation of Tysha, at least for you to be like, this is new, you know, but it didn't really hit that it was new. Like, you thought that this had happened on the show?
I didn't think about it. I just read the chapters. Like, I'm trying to not do the thing where like, oh, is this what the show was like? And do I remember it like that? Because then I just start spinning and then I miss what's in the books. So that's why I said at the beginning of this episode that I intentionally did not do that for these 2 chapters. Like, I didn't spend too much time trying to remember like the conversation with Jon and Stannis, and does he make this offer now, or does that offer come later? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
You know, like I just trying to avoid that.
That makes sense. Man, all right. Well, is there anything you want to say before I say hi to new patrons and we wrap it up?
Nope. I'm just looking forward to getting further along in the story and some of this weirdness that people have been talking about, and especially these next two books, which are written in a way that I don't think I've experienced in another book before. So it will be a new way to read a story, which is, you know, the sort of not getting any characters at all for the next book, and then getting a second book retreading, but with the different POVs. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we've had a few people, Chris Tex and also Ryan Reisman and someone else, I'm sorry, I can't remember who, had suggested the reading version of, I think people have been calling it A Feast of Dragons or something. It's the combined reading order of A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons. And it's basically both of them, since they're happening simultaneously, somebody had cut together in timeline order the way the books would have gone if you were reading them normally. Like,
oh, can we do that?
POVs. This is funny. You are saying this here like this is news when you responded to the comment about it in the group.
I'm asking again. Like, I would like to do that because you were like, no, I want Rashawn to experience the weirdness. And I said, I don't want unnecessary weirdness.
It's not unnecessary weirdness. I mean, there's a real weirdness to reading things that weren't written the way they are put together. And like, look, this is my main concern. I'm going to be honest with you. Rashawn isn't awesome at remembering what to read sometimes. And having to tell her to jump to this book and read this chapter, but then go back to the other book and read that chapter.
Is it not, is that how that would work?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was cut together. Someone cut it together and you could just like, I don't know, get a PDF or something.
I mean, maybe they have done that. Maybe somebody has a PDF.
Because I have zero interest in what you just said. I have absolutely no interest in doing what you just said, which is this chapter in this book and the next week that chapter in that book. Zero interest in that.
There may be a PDF. Would you want to read a PDF?
I mean, it at the end of the day, it does not matter to me how we do this. I am really going to trust your instinct on what you think is the best way to go through it. If there is, I'm trying to say, I don't want to say benefit because that's not really like the right word, you know. But if you think that there is something of value, is the word I'm looking for, to reading it the way he wrote it, you know, we'll just read the two books. You know, and I'll go experience it the same way everybody else did. If you think it would be interesting to have someone read it in this sort of chronological time because it's not the way most people read it, and they would be interested in hearing that version, then I'd be on board with that too.
All right. Sound off in the comments, folks, because personally, my instinct was just, I would like Rashawn to experience it as it was written. Like, just for the sake of her getting the full experience the way that we all experienced it, and how strange it is to jump into a book and be like, where is so-and-so? And then realize they're not coming. On the other hand, you know, I covered it once already and did it in the regular way, and maybe a combined reading. It's just like, it's the sort of thing where it's more interesting probably with me and the combined reading order, since I know what it's like normally. Rashawn doesn't have anything to compare it against. But do y'all want that? Is that something that you're interested in? And
then we have to even see, does it exist in like a, you know, combined way to read it? You know what I mean? Like, cause that might not be a thing. I just like assumed, you know, cause it literally, when whoever mentioned it was like, you know, have you thought about reading into blah, 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 and it had a name, I was like, oh, it must be, you know, a fucking thing you could just go fucking buy or download or whatever. It literally never occurred to me that it would just be like a list of the chapters and how to read them, and then you would just go between the two books. Because if that's what's on the table, I'm just going to say no. That is not what we're doing.
Yeah, it looks like I searched for A Feast with Dragons is, I guess, the way that people have decided to call it. And all I have found is the reading order list, but not anything that actually puts these chapters together. That is not to say one doesn't exist. Somebody out there may have done it in a PDF.
Yeah.
So
also, like, I just want to mention the way that George Martin does not like to fucking number his chapters and just use the same goddamn names over and over. If the reading list is just, Jon, Daenerys, I'm going to fuck that up immediately. So that is just not on the table for us. I'm sorry, y'all. That's just not on the table. You know what I mean? It's not like if the list was like read chapter 2 and then read chapter 7. And then I'd be like, okay, well, I can keep up. But if it's just names or chapter numbers in the reading list, but the books don't have the chapter numbers that correspond, nah. That's a nah. So, but we do have to wrap up.
Yes. All right. Well, real quick, I'm going to say hi to our new patron. What's up, patrons? All right. This week we have got Gigi, Haze Free, Fieke, Kate, Shane Shin, and Ariel Steinsaltz.
Welcome.
Welcome to all of you. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons, signing up. Hopefully y'all are enjoying the patrons only content, and hopefully especially enjoying me and Miles talking about Sookie Stackhouse. Those of you who aren't listening to Sookie Stackhouse, I just really want to know what your problem is. Like, it's just a delightful, stupid series that is very fun and has a very smart, interesting protagonist. And everybody should just get into it for a bit of light delight. That's
very
certainly
good.
Something. Okay. We love you all very much, and we will see you next week. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Capitalism is a disease.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.